Shalom. I truly hope all is well with you. Today I want to talk about when we as men, especially men of the Most High, have to push through pain for someone else's gain. I recently returned from a 12-day getaway in Italy with my wife, Nicole. It was a bucket list trip for her. She always wanted to visit Florence, Positano, Capri, and Tuscany, but more than anything, take a cooking class. Not with a Michelin-starred chef, but with someone who had a true passion for homemade Italian meals. Someone who lived in the countryside, grew their own vegetables and fruits, and would let you eat right off the vine. Well, it happened just as she dreamed. It was like the Most High, answered her prayer to every detail. And watching her cook, laugh and smile with childlike joy was one of the most beautiful things I've ever witnessed. Now, you're probably wondering why I titled this video, Pushing Through Pain for Someone Else's Gain, if my wife and I are on vacation in Italy. Well, the day before we started our journey to Italy, it was Father's Day, and I had to drive myself to the emergency room. For 8 days prior, I had an unrelenting back spasm. I've had back spasms before, but none like this. And actually, I feel a sharp pain in my back now as I'm talking to you. So, of course, I wanted to make sure nothing was seriously wrong before boarding a 10-hour flight to Italy. After blood work and an MRI, the results came back. It was 2 herniated discs that was now pressing against my spinal cord. I'm extremely grateful for the doctor who went above and beyond to ensure I not only had an accurate diagnosis, but also pain management for the trip to Italy. While it was a relief to finally understand what was happening, it also raised some concerns. As the current director and lead instructor of the Cave of Adullam, where we train boys in judo, jiu-jitsu, and other martial arts to teach them emotional stability, one bad fall could now leave me paralyzed. I praise Yah in that moment in the emergency room that he ordered my stop. And I praise him for that. I wasn't just thinking about how to pivot from the work I've done for nearly 20 years at the age of 55 now, but I was also wrestling with how not to ruin this trip for my wife, Nicole. She had been diligently and consistently planning this trip for a year. And it makes sense that the best thing for my body, which of course, no one would argue, would be to cancel the trip and stay home and rest and recover. But as a good husband, faithful husband, and a loving friend to Nicole, I'm like, man, I sacrificed my body for everyone else. Why can't I do it for her? So I chose not to break her heart. But I had no idea that I would end up walking over 8,000 steps a day across the hilly streets of Rome, Positano, Capri, Florence, and Tuscany with a back spasm. Had I known, I may have stayed at home, but no, now that I think about it, knowing me, knowing how I'm built as a man, especially a man of the Most High, how much I love my wife, and again, considering how much I do for others and sacrifice for them, I still would have pushed through for her. But there was no turning back because at that point, I was in Italy, and once again, I had to push through pain as a warrior. Those of you who read The Man the Moment Demands, my latest book, I shared something similar that happened to me in Dubai. I had a brutal back spasm that had bound me in a wheelchair at the resort in Dubai. Considering my recent MRI, that back spasm and all the others was possibly caused by these 2 herniated discs. I also shared in The Man the Moment Demands that specifically good husbands, we must learn to say no to the request or to when our wives request unintentionally put our health at risk. We have to move past just being a protector and provider for others and start protecting and providing for ourselves. But this trip was different. Nicole had received a remarkable grant, blessing her with a paid sabbatical, and Italy was the kickoff to her world tour. So even though I had every right and reason to stay home or in the hotel in Italy and rest, I drew on the warrior spirit that was forged through decades of martial arts training and adversity in my life. Walking in 90-degree heat, uphill, downhill, up steps, down steps, my back, as you can imagine, was on fire. By the end of each day, I was completely exhausted. This wasn't a vacation for me. It was an exploration. And that really hurt Nicole because she wanted me to enjoy the trip as well, but it just wasn't going to happen this time. But I made it through by Yah's grace, my fortitude, and my high tolerance for pain. Even in the quiet moments when Nicole and I were chilling like at a restaurant or just walking through the streets of Florence, the moments that could have been restful actually turned into ministry. Nicole needed a pair of comfortable sneakers due to all the walking. You know, my wife is very stylish. I haven't seen a woman dress as nice as my wife. And so she wears stylish shoes. But, you know, the pavement in Rome specifically was made like out of a cobblestone or brick. And so it actually was very taxing on Nicole's feet. And so she needed a pair of comfortable sneakers. As we exited our train in Florence, I noticed a woman wearing New Balance sneakers. And I asked Nicole, did she like them? Nicole responded, yes. So after checking into our hotel in Florence, we located a New Balance store. And it was, I believe, only like 10 minutes away. When we entered the store, we were greeted by an employee, a young man, I say about in his 20s, welcomed us with a smile. He looked at me and I knew by his look that he recognized me. He became very emotional and told me he had prayed to meet me one day. He humbly asked if he could speak to me while helping my wife find the correct shoe size. And of course, I engaged. He said that I wish I could do what you do. And then he asked, how can I get on your level? I then asked him, are you ready to be broken? And are you ready to suffer? What you see in me isn't me, it's who's in me. This is only possible because Yahuwah the Most High broke me his way so that you could hear and feel his son through me. And I told him that being called isn't the same as having a career. Being called by Christ comes with the cross. He shared that he was a Christian, and I was pleased to hear that. But like many, he hadn't been serious walking the path of righteousness, and his communication with Yah had, I guess, dropped in many years. I asked if I could pray over him right there in the store, and he welcomed it. After prayer, he was deeply moved and encouraged. Yah loved him so much that he led me into that store, not for sneakers for Nicole, but for that moment for that young man. Matter of fact, they didn't even have Nicole's size. So that stop clearly wasn't for us. It was for the young man. But what if I had stayed home? What if I had surrendered to the pain or discomfort I was feeling from these 2 herniated discs? What if I had chose that day to stay in the hotel instead of walking through the streets of Florence to the New Balance store? That young man's prayer might have gone unanswered. What if that moment was predestined for Yah to move in his life and my back spasm was a spiritual attack against me to make me stronger and to increase my faith? Nicole and I had forgotten a small plastic dolly, the one we used to roll our carry-ons through the airports. So now, as you can imagine, I'm thinking like, okay, how are we going to get these 2 possibly, I think, 25 or 30 pound bags, because we packed them with things that we had purchased in Italy, back to the airport and carrying them with a back spasm. I had to push through pain again. And so I had to carry both of those bags through the airport like a farmer's carry with dumbbells, if you're familiar with that exercise. Still, I didn't complain. I allowed the warrior within me to rise again to what appeared to be a weaning of my soul. I felt like the Most High in that moment was testing me and pushing me and getting more of me out of his way so that he can get more glory through my life. But halfway to our gate, I'm so thankful, though, that Yah provided a ram in the bush. I noticed a abandoned cart that was sitting on the side, and I was able to stack the bags on it and make it to the gate fairly easy. So my brothers, I'm sharing this with you because sometimes as men, we have to push through pain for someone else's gain. First, it was Nicole. Then it was the man at the New Balance store. And then, of course, it was for Yah's glory. Then back to Nicole, making sure that this trip ended the way it started. But the goal isn't just enduring pain, gentlemen. It's about how we endure the pain. As Paul wrote, endure suffering as a good soldier in Yahushua. And I believe that's 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3. Not complaining and not collapsing like a pusillanimous male, but fighting as a good soldier. On this journey from emotional incarceration to comprehensive manhood, you will be tempted many times to give up the fight for your right to be human, and you'll want to go back into that dark cell. But never let the warrior die. Yes, we've gained the freedom to feel, but when the moment comes for us to rise, let the warrior rise and come out. It is written that to whom much is given, much is required, and to whom much is entrusted, even more will be demanded. This is the path of those who are called according to Yah's purpose. And that is Romans chapter 8, verse 28. So again, don't let the warrior in you die, because carrying a cross doesn't get easier. Sometimes you need fortitude to drag it when you're fatigued. And sometimes you will need fortitude to be weak so that the power of Christ can rest upon you. Meditate on 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. I want to close with Acts chapter 20, verse 24. I consider my life nothing to me, if only I may finish the race and complete the task Yahushua the Messiah has given me. So consider it joy, my brothers, when the tests and trials come. Let the warrior rise within you, because when your faith is tested, your endurance will grow. And when your endurance is fully developed, you will be complete. Never forget, Yahushua pushed through his pain for our gain. And if we are his disciples, we should be doing the same. I pray this video was encouraging to you. And if you would like to be notified when I upload another one, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Until next time, brothers, keep growing, keep building, and keep striving to be the man the moment demands. Shalom.